From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. How y'all doing? I am your host, Leon Phelps. Thank you for joining us for this very special love episode of Pod Therapy. It's Valentine's Day, so we have all the right responses to your romantic queries. We are broadcasting from the Turn in Las Vegas. Ooh, that's nice. The Turn. As always, my co-host, Dr. Jim Jobin, is here, and he has 2 PhDs in both love and love-making, so he's kind of an expert. I have my bottle of Cavassier, so I think we are ready to get started. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
Dude, you nailed that. That is disgusting.
That was Cartman.
No, that probably was a Cartman. See, we're not, no, you know what, I'm done. I'm done being harassed. I'm done being harassed by everybody in this room.
Nope.
For how I speak.
No, you're not.
I'm done. I'm done with both of you.
Getting started.
You know, when you're getting lectured by people from Louisiana on how you speak.
Did you know you've made horribly wrong decisions in your life?
So
I would like to
see dudes naked. Up there on their ivory tower. The people of New Orleans.
I would like to apologize to Tim Meadows, Lauren Michaels, and everybody else at Saturday Night Live. That was done purely out of respect and love, and we have nothing.
Yeah.
So it's not worth getting lawyers involved.
No.
My first date with my wife, we watched The Ladies' Man.
Did you really?
Yeah, we watched the movie The Ladies' Man.
I was actually watching that the other day. That's why I thought about doing this, since it's our Valentine's Day special.
I don't know what you said, but I'll suggest doing it in the butt.
Anyway. That's always the comeback at the end. Well, this is a special Valentine's Day edition. When you are hearing this episode, it is the day of love. It is Valentine's Day. Yes. And so we are taking love questions today and doing our best not to ruin your relationships. Actually, you know what? Turn this off. That was a great time to end the show. I think it's the nicest thing we could do.
This is better to, stop the episode here and listen to it over the weekend after Valentine's Day.
Yeah, don't let us... Anyway, I don't remember what your question was.
So we actually, we are doing an anti-Valentine's Day.
Ah, yes.
And I'm very happy about that because it actually wasn't even my idea.
Ah.
This was Laura's idea.
Like most good ideas, they're not yours.
Was brilliant.
Yeah.
So we are actually going to do nothing. We're going to order in some pizzas.
Yeah.
And we're each going to pay for our own.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very anti-Valentine's Day thing.
This is you and Laura's thing?
Yeah.
Oh, this is what you guys are going to do? So she said, let's do an anti-Valentine Day.
Yeah,
so
which I love because I hate Valentine's Day.
Yeah, you're getting out of this really good here, Tangeman. I don't know what kind of wizardry you're pulling that you talked your girl into this. And she thinks it's a good idea.
This was her idea.
Yeah, she thinks it's her idea. You probably have some tape that you've been playing in her ear when she's sleeping at night.
That doesn't mean it's not her idea.
Valentine's Day. Yeah. This is some kind of weird hypnotic induction that you're doing.
Exactly.
I'm on to you, man. I know your game. So that's what you guys are going to do. You're going to do like a pizza party at home and hang out.
Yep,
That's cool.
We're going to watch a movie.
Okay.
Something probably anti-Valentine's.
Something, like an action movie.
Probably. It'll probably have Arnold Schwarzenegger in it.
That's a good choice.
Yeah,
that's a really good choice. Best Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, go.
Terminator, I suppose.
Yeah, it's up there. I don't think it's the best one.
Gotta be T2.
Terminator 2?
Yeah.
Really? I'm Running Man. That was a good one.
Running Man?
Running Man.
It's solid.
Yeah,
solid.
This is a good choice.
None of us said The Last Action Hero?
You know, it was up there.
That was implied.
Jingle All the Way. Yeah. Junior.
Kindergarten Cop.
Kindergarten Cop.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Kindergarten Cop.
I swear.
Twins.
Twins was up there because of DeVito.
DeVito, yeah.
Right.
But no, Kindergarten Cop, I swear, I quote that movie once a week in the mirror.
I think everyone does.
Once a week, I get out of the shower, I look in the movie, I go, who is your daddy and what does it do? And then I just go about my business. I have no context for it. I just keep doing it.
I bet Kindergarten Cop is the most quoted movie that nobody likes.
Oh, yeah, probably. Yeah.
I mean, you can't say the word tumor.
Yeah.
Without
Tumor,
at least
it's
eight,
not a tumor.
without at least 8 people in the room saying that. It doesn't matter if there aren't 8 people in the room.
That would be funny. That would be funny just to yell in a crowd and see how many people would yell at
tons of people. That's,
Everyone will yell at that.
Yes, all the people will do that.
If
That's
you
like
just
in
yell in
Texas.
the crowd, like if you're just in a mall,
Yeah.
and just went, it might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Everybody would do that.
Yeah.
Kindergarten Cop, probably the best Schwarzenegger movie. So that would be my recommendation for your Valentine's Day love.
That sounds good. We'll
Yet
probably do
another
that.
reason why nobody should be listening to the show on Valentine's Day, but here we are. Here we are.
Right?
We're in your ear. You're about to go about your life. Hopefully going to have a good evening. Even if you are single, remember that you are loved.
Yes. That one thing I am a little disappointed about is that I don't get to celebrate
Singles
Singles
Awareness
Day.
Yeah, Singles Awareness Day. So if you are single today, this Valentine's Day,
Enjoy it.
Enjoy your freedom, okay? And just remember
Do something
that
nice for yourself.
Pod Therapy loves you, okay? If nobody else
Everybody loves you.
everybody loves you, but especially
Being in a
Pod
relationship
Therapy.
doesn't mean that you're necessarily loved.
That's true. That's a very true point. Yes, this is all very accurate. But happy Valentine's Day to everybody. We are super excited to get to celebrate it with you and hopefully give some good feedback. We got some good listener questions on this one. And we parsed through the ones to find the best relationship ones that were on our docket. So if you've written in and you were hoping that this week we would be answering them, we are punting to next week or the week after. You're in the queue, basically. But we definitely cherry-picked the relationship ones.
We get to all of them.
Yeah, we eventually do get to all of them. So this one is a question here, and it's titled Open... Oh, wait. Oh, no, that's right. We're not jumping into the questions. We've got our first day segment.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. This is why I shouldn't be doing anything.
Yeah, why don't you just sit the next couple out?
I'm going to sit the next few out.
Sit there and look pretty, kid.
Do you guys have a pillow? Can I just, can I lay down on a
So
pillow?
we decided that today would be a really good episode to talk about communication skills.
Yes.
So we have 10 tips for effective communication. And as we go through these, what I try to emphasize with people when I discuss this in counseling sessions or in group therapy or anything like that is that ultimately what we're trying to do is we're trying to maintain balance between the two individuals so that one person is not dominating the other person. Okay? So there's a lot of things that we do in communication where we inadvertently, a lot of times, establish dominance over the other person.
I feel like you're just being passive-aggressive. Where are you going with this? Is this whole thing an intervention? Are you just taking shots at me? I feel like literally all these things are things that you tell me not to do.
If it applies...
This is going to get weird.
So, what these tips are, again, we want both parties to feel like they're on equal ground. Okay. So if we don't want the other person to become defensive, then we have to become cognizant of not triggering defensive behaviors or not putting them on the defensive. So these are going to be tips for improving communication.
Nah.
So the very first one, avoid mind reading.
Nah.
So this is something we actually talked about, I think, in the last episode, along with cognitive distortions.
Yeah.
But mind reading is anytime we're telling somebody else how they think or feel. Okay. This is likely going to trigger an angry outburst.
Yeah.
Because usually when we're mind reading, we're not really trying to communicate. What we're doing is we're trying to, sometimes inadvertently, sometimes overtly, trying to dominate the conversation. Because if I can tell you what you're thinking, then that's me establishing dominance. So when that happens, the other person becomes in a subordinate role, and how are they going to react? Most likely, they're going to either become dominant themselves, or they're going to withdraw from the conversation.
Yeah.
In either of those circumstances, communication ends.
Yeah, and you're having both sides of the conversation if you're doing that. Like, if you're mind reading, you're not only are you telling me what you think, now you're telling me what I think.
Right.
And that's frustrating.
Exactly.
So that's not a very effective way to get an idea across or to have a conversation at all, I guess.
So that's tip number one.
Mm-hmm.
So going on to tip number two, no name calling. Now this one seems very obvious, but the reason why this is something to avoid is a little less obvious. So if, let's say, I have a problem with Jim, hypothetically.
Yeah, completely.
Maybe the way that he doesn't come prepared for a podcast, and he doesn't know what segment is coming up next.
If plucking random ideas.
Right,
yeah.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if that is the problem I have with him,
yeah.
I need to address the behavior. But when I name call, I'm not addressing the behavior.
Yes.
I'm addressing his identity.
Yes.
So if I say, Jim, you're a goddamn moron,
hypothetically.
that's attacking his identity.
Well, that's what you texted me, though.
I'm talking verbal communication.
Yeah, verbal. This is
None
not
of this
text.
applies
None of this
to
applies
text.
in text. Got it.
So when I do that,
Yeah.
I'm obviously going to trigger a defense mechanism because we can change behavior.
Yes.
We can't change identity.
So if you just assign a name to me, now how am I supposed to somehow weasel out of that?
Exactly.
Now I'm just a moron. Always. Right. And that's a different place than, Jim, that behavior was moronic. Or that would still be pretty loaded.
Right. But that's even a better way to put it. It's not great, but
well,
it's still
also, I mean, notice that if you're communicating and you're using these kinds of labels, whether you're giving it a name, you're naming the person this, or whether you're naming the behavior this, it's usually unproductive. And I'm going to go, into that number 2 tip also at this point. Stop diagnosing each other. It drives me crazy whenever couples do this and they go, you know what, you're just a liar, you're a narcissist, you're a sociopath, or this kind of behavior is narcissistic or whatever. Because whenever you give something that's like taking out a permanent marker and writing it all over them. And it's very hard to wash that off and to start again and to change things. And so it's not productive. Don't do that. Describe the thing you don't like as a thing you don't like, and don't add extra words to try to make it sound scarier than
exactly. Because if you call me a narcissist, that implies that there's nothing I can do to change it.
Apparently, I'm a narcissist. And it also becomes this really frustrating thing because apparently, because I'm a narcissist, I can't humanly get out of that box, right? So no matter what I say, do, or any of my opinions, they're all automatically invalid because you've put a name tag on me. And so now I don't matter anymore. You know, and it's dehumanizing. Don't do it. It's not effective. So the third tip, no interrupting and no long speeches. Did you ask me to read this one on purpose? Is that what this is?
No, actually.
This is getting weird.
It just fits. I don't know.
Feel like, where'd you get this? Where'd you get this list?
No.
I feel like you wrote this.
While you may be guilty of both of those, I can say I am too.
No, you're not.
No, not interrupting. I don't do that.
No.
Nearly as much as you do. But
that's true.
But the long speeches,
you will wax poetic.
Yes, I will just get into those and just continue rolling. And this is a form of dominance. People don't realize it. Obviously, the interrupting is very clear. Because when you interrupt somebody, what you're essentially saying is, I'm not listening, stop. What I have to say is more important.
Right.
You're establishing dominance. You can do the same thing with long speeches. By not allowing the other person to talk, you dominate the conversation.
Right.
So a tip that I like to give people, if you are one of those folks like me that tend to get into the long speeches, limit yourself to 3 sentences.
Okay.
Because if you can't say what you need to say in 3 sentences, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Most of us get to the point within the first 2 sentences, and then we're just continuing to hammer away on the same point.
I think that's good. And I think that if, one thing that I know is really helpful too is if you tend to have, a longer point you want to make, or you have several, just make one at a time, and then ask the other person something, use a rhetorical, comma in there where you can say, does that make sense? And I find that that's a really helpful way to bounce somebody is to stop what you're doing in the paragraph and then say, does that make sense? Are you following me?
Yeah.
And that gives them permission to sort of qualify what you just said, but it also implies that you have more to say. And I think that's a really, nice way to do it.
And a great segue into number 6. Let's skip ahead a little bit.
Whoa.
We'll come back to 4 and 5.
Place.
But 6 is talk about one thing at a time.
Okay.
Exactly what Jim just said. So if we really want to solve a particular problem with another person, we are most likely to succeed by keeping our focus on that one problem.
Right.
So we may need to vent frustrations over other things too, but it works better if we do this one thing at a time. Right. So not throwing the whole kitchen sink. We're going to focus on one thing at a time.
I think that's fair. Yeah, because sometimes we do the spray approach where we bring our 99 theses against a person, every single thing that bothers us about them. Mm-hmm. And there is a time, I think, whenever we do have to purge that and we do have to get that out there. But also, if you have that many problems with a person and this is the first time you're spraying it all on them, or it's never been engaged one by one, that really tells me you guys have dysfunctional communication anyway.
Exactly.
This is the first they're hearing about it. Now you feel like you have to get it all out there. So talking about one thing at a time, okay, that's number 6.
So let's go back to 4.
Okay. We could have just lied to the listeners and said that was number 4.
I can't lie.
No.
I just don't feel comfortable with
the
that.
Iowan in you.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
Just thinking about it
You
now,
know what?
it just makes me uncomfortable.
In the last order, I gave you, exactly 2 ounces too little, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm taking it off the tab.
So number 4, be specific.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this is about the problem, not the person. So if we say you are always doing blank or you never do blank.
Gosh, that drives me. Oh, I hate that.
Exactly. Most people do, right?
Right.
And that is another way of sometimes how we tend to dominate a conversation by talking vaguely and generally and saying they're always or never doing something. But one thing to remember is that we're human beings. We are not that consistent. We are not always doing something.
No.
Or never doing something.
There's one thing humans are not. It's consistent.
Exactly. Yeah. So if Jim is unprepared for the podcast, 3 out of the last 4 weeks.
Yeah. There's been 59 episodes.
If I say
one of them.
If I say to him, you were always unprepared.
Yeah.
What am I saying about that one time that he wasn't?
I'm saying, look at episode 20. Yeah. Okay. I was
And
on point.
So what I'm saying essentially is that I didn't notice it. It didn't matter. Whatever. Right.
Yeah.
So that's what we want to avoid.
Uh-huh. All right. So that was number 4. Now we'll jump to number 5. Stick close to the present, right? So a lot of times, we're going to feel angry. We're hurt over things that have happened in the past. And now we're bringing up the list, right? And so we're bringing up everything a person's ever done. And we're saying, this is just like that time. And a lot of people get really frustrated with this. And I've seen a lot of couples. And I think that there are two errors that I see people make. A lot of time, one member of the couple will be the one who wants to bring up the list. And the other one tends to take the position of, hey, shouldn't we forgive and forget? Why do you always bring up the past? And I don't know that either of them is completely right, because the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. And so if those things need to be brought up and dealt with, those do need to be brought up and dealt with. But it's also going to make this particular conversation very unproductive. We're not going to get done what you're trying to get done today.
So this is what I've noticed. This is my observation, that the reason why, because everybody can relate to this. Yeah. Everybody knows somebody who won't let something go.
Right.
And what I've noticed is that the main reason why somebody won't let something go from the past is because they haven't had validation. And what I mean by validation is a connection, a way that person can say, not only do I understand what I did, but I understand how it affected you, and I understand that you have the right to feel the way that you do.
Yeah.
That's validation. So I was doing, this is back when I was living in Iowa, I was doing a group in a substance abuse treatment program, and I had this young kid, he was like 18 years old, and in the middle of his addiction, he had pawned his mother's ring. And this ring not only belonged to his mother, but it was her mother's. It was her mother's mother before that. And her mother's mother, like it had been like 5 generations that this ring had been in the family. Yeah. He pawned it.
Oh, wow.
It's now gone forever. So this came up at a group therapy session once where she brought it up. And he's like, I have apologized thousands of times for this. Why won't you let it go?
Right.
And the reason why is because he's not apologizing with validation.
Yeah.
He's saying, I'm sorry.
Yes.
But he's not connecting to, okay, I get why you feel the way that you do.
Right.
And you have the right to feel the way that you do.
Yes.
If I was in your position, I'd feel that way too. Yeah. That's validation. Once you get that, then you can move on. You can finally put these things to rest.
I agree. And, if you're out there and you've gotten frustrated by this in the past and it really bothers you that people bring stuff up and you wish they would stop doing it, this is actually how you can delete this stuff, is you can sit down with them and, hopefully in an unprovoked way, you're not reacting to a current conversation. But if you can empathetically tell them, hey, I was thinking about how I did this to you in the past. I realize how crushing that was, or, put yourself in their shoes, language some of this from their perspective, and show them that I do understand it, and I'm affected by that, and I'm sorry. And if you do that, that is the closest thing there is to an emotional eraser that begins to take that away from their memory so they don't feel the need to bring it up again.
All right. And number 7, claim your own feelings and your own actions. A near guaranteed way to pick a fight is to blame another person for how you feel or your actions.
Right. Yeah.
No one can control our feelings or actions. So our feelings, mad, happy, sad, whatever, They are our own emotions.
Right.
But when I give somebody else the power by saying, you made me angry,
Right.
what are we really implying?
Right.
If they have control over our anger, then
have
they have control over all of our emotions.
Right.
So if I say Jim made me angry, then that's implying that he also has power over happiness. But I don't want Jim to have power over my happiness.
Right.
I want to claim my own feelings. So I can talk about things that he did or behaviors
Right.
and how I feel about those behaviors.
Yes.
But their feelings are still mine.
Yes. And so I want to come alongside this because you've beaten this drum a bunch of different times.
Yeah.
And I do in theory understand it and agree with you, and it's frustrating to me because like the way it rhetorically is presented, it seems to minimize or, like take away somebody's right to feelings by saying, I'm just over here doing my own thing, and if you're affected by that, that's on you. Like,
Right.
I'm just walking naked down Main Street and you guys are the perverts, And it's like, no, you can be affected by another human. But I like that you add that second piece to it now where you say, guys, describe the behavior, describe how you are affected by it. I feel this when you that. But lead with the acknowledgement that these are your feelings and that feelings may or may not be facts. Because when you're just saying, oh, you made me feel this way, you make me feel jealous. Okay, that's very complicated, right? Mm-hmm. Let's start with, I'm feeling jealous when you said hello to the waitress. Okay, that's an accurate thing, right? But they didn't do this intentionally, right? But when you describe it the other way, it sounds like it has malice to it. So that's very fair. But yeah, you've hit that drum before, and I've thought, man, there's something missing from that. But now I feel
But there is something empowering to claiming your own feelings because we're not puppets on strings.
Right.
Right. We kind of get this when I notice that people really get stuck in this way of thinking, that's kind of how their behaviors line up. It seems like that's how they see themselves. Like I have no control. Everybody else is controlling everything I do.
Yes.
Start by claiming the feelings, and you can start controlling other aspects of your life.
I agree with that. All right. So number 8 on this list, get and give frequent feedback. And so this is actually a skill that I teach couples when I'm doing couples counseling. I have this thing called Jim's Rules for Fighting. And so it's like, this is one of my rules, is the way I want you to fight. So basically my rule sheet is just like, do this when fighting. Like, I don't care if you fight, but these are what you have to do. So like one of the tricks is this one, number 8, get and give frequent feedback, is to summarize back what the person said to you before trying to respond to it. And, you and I have done this with couples before where we put them on training wheels. Like, we literally make them robotically parrot back every single sentence until they get used to doing this.
Which seems kind of childish
But
at
we're
times,
trying
but
to program
works.
you. It does work. It slows the fight way down.
Right.
But if it's like, Nick, I'm absolutely angry because, you drank the rest of the apple juice in our fridge and you didn't, replace it. You didn't send me a text. You knew I was at the store. You should have told me to pick up some more apple juice and you didn't do it. Mm-hmm. And then your reaction to that would be, what is it, Nick? Demonstrate the skill.
So what I'm hearing you say is that when I didn't do this, you're upset.
You didn't even listen to a damn word I just said about the apple juice.
Sorry,
you don't even know what we're fighting about. Do you do this all the time?
No, hold on.
You do.
That's
Let's
number
break
4.
all the rules.
That's number 4.
Let's have a fight where we break all these rules. You know what? It's because you're lazy. It's because you're a pathological liar and you're lazy and you do it all the time. Hold on, I'm going to see if I can break all these. Where else? And I know what you're thinking.
No.
I know you do it because you're thinking that I don't matter. And
this actually goes.
No, I'm interrupting
really
you right
well.
now.
This fits really well with the next one, 9,
Okay. Yes.
which is responding to both the spoken and unspoken parts of the message.
That's a good one.
So this is one thing that you're trying to train this skill that when you say this, I need to feed it back, but I also need to give feedback based off of observations, what I'm seeing.
Right.
Because a big part of conflict in relationships comes from miscommunication or messages that we misinterpret.
Right.
So if I see something, before I go any further, if I'm seeing Jim do a behavior, it really bothers me. Before I go any further, I want to confront it because maybe I'm misreading it.
Yes.
So I'm noticing that you're doing this when I'm talking to you. Is everything okay?
Yeah.
or something like that.
I like that.
Then that gives that person the opportunity to say, oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not the message I was trying to send.
Yeah, I call that a check-in. And
Yes.
and that's one on my list of rules for fighting is I want the couple to do that where they go, hey, I think that I'm seeing right now that you're frustrated. Are you angry about what I'm saying? Or am I misreading that? And that gives the other person the chance to say, no, this is how I listen. Like, sorry, I'm focused right now. And so my brow is furrowed and I'm concentrated, but no, this is not me angry. Thank you for asking. Like, and that's good because like if you think a person's doing that, now you're mind reading and now you think that you're being not listened to. And so we want to constantly be checking in on those nonverbals, things that we think we're seeing, and just, taking their temperature and going, hey, am I with you right now? Because it looks like you're angry, but I want to make sure I'm not misperceiving that.
Exactly.
And then they go, oh yeah, well no, yeah, I'm angry, but it's actually not about you. It's, that the Patriots won another Super Bowl. Sorry, that's really what it is. So the 10th trick on the top 10 language communication strategies here is use a structured communication method. So that's whenever we agree to talk about one issue at a time, right? And we talk about the issue in a time and place that's practical for both people. So these drive-by fights that people try to have as they're passing through or as they're doing things, it's very ineffective. And so it's okay to table the topic and come back to it when you can fight about it.
And it's good to know each other's good moments and good settings.
Yes.
Right? There are times that are really good times to talk to me about something and times that are bad. A really bad time for me to have a serious conversation is when I haven't eaten.
Yes.
If I'm hungry, that's not a good time to have a good conversation.
Right.
So if you're in a relationship, know your partner's good times and bad times.
I think that's the first piece of it. And then when we talk about structure, here's another thing that we're talking about. And this goes back to my rules for fighting. I literally make couples do this. I feel emotion word when you action or behavior.
Right.
And I want that to be the whole conversation over and over and over and over and over. Because people never do that. They don't do a good job of talking about their feelings. They try to talk about the indignity or the injustice or the values that you have broken by doing this, or all polite, civilized people do X, but you did Y, how dare you? And it's like everybody would agree with me, and 4 out of 5 dentists choose Trident. And it's like all of that is red herring, man. Talk about your emotion. Listen, I feel belittled. And I feel minimized, and I feel worthless when you try to tell me that I don't know how to say the word pillow. and those are my feelings.
Those are legitimate feelings.
Those are my feelings. Thank you, Jacob. I feel validated right now.
No, you shouldn't.
No, I feel like my feelings are
No,
validated.
you got that part wrong. You shouldn't feel validated at all.
What I'm trying to tell you is I am belittling.
That is purpose. That is on purpose.
You got 100% of the feels that I wanted you to get.
For those of you just joining us, Jim can't say the word pillow. This is a conversation that we had prior to the
We're going
show.
to take a poll, and we're going to find out how everybody says
Fine.
it. I think that's what we need to do.
Yeah, it's not like we have microphones right here where we can broadcast this to the entire world.
Whatever.
All right. Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we discuss open relationships. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor is Smitty Scoop. And here's a quick blurb about Smitty Scoop provided by the Iowa State Fair. Brown sugar pork belly on a stick, aka Smitty Scoop, is quarter-pound strip of pork belly that has been honey-cured, rubbed in brown sugar, and cooked to crispy perfection. Find it at the Iowa Pork Tent northeast of Ag Boulevard.
Yeah, you got the Ag Boulevard.
Ag Boulevard on Grand Ave, $7. Or text STICK to 75782. Thank you, Smitty. And if you would like to join Smitty, you can find us on patreon.com/therapy and join the party. Again, that's www.patreon.com/therapy.
We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next question is about open relationships.
Hello, Dr. Tangeman and Mr. Jobin.
Thank you.
My name is Jeff, and I've been a loyal listener since your appearance on Ice Cream Social. And I'm writing to you guys today about a problem I have in my open relationship. My girlfriend and I got together over a year ago, and she made it very clear she wanted an open relationship. I, being inexperienced and head over heels for her, agreed. She had her other guy friend she would sleep with occasionally, and when they were together, I felt terrible. I felt like my heart wasn't in my chest anymore. I felt this crushing anxiety that made me want to get up and just go somewhere. Sometimes I'd just hop on my motorcycle and ride for hours and try to escape the feeling, or bury myself in my job, but neither worked. She and I talked about it, and she explained that for her, sex is just sex. She compared it to my video games. I love Gears of War more than anything, and I play it constantly. But sometimes I want to kick back with Red Dead Redemption. It doesn't mean I don't love Gears anymore, I just want something different. In my brain, this makes total sense, and I want to be on board. We're both young, and we are both young, and tying ourselves down to one sexual partner does seem foolish right now. These thoughts helped me calm down and come to terms with our relationship, and I was happy. All of this was fine and dandy until recently, when she found somebody new. I know the man well, he's a good acquaintance of mine, and she met him at work. And she asked my permission to sleep with him. Again, in my brain, all is fine, and I said yes, as long as she follows the rules that we've laid out early on. But then the night came, and I felt all those awful feelings from before again. I don't want to feel this way. It almost makes me physically ill. So I need to reconcile my brain and my heart. I want to stay with her. She makes me feel special and loved when we're together. Some friends have told me I just need to go out and cash in my open relationship ticket, so to speak, and that will clear things up for me. But I'm not so sure. Any words of wisdom or advice you have to offer would be greatly appreciated. I love the show and listen every single week. Salt Pork, Jeff.
Good question, Jeff.
Man,
this is actually not the first open relationship question that we've had.
Yeah.
I think it was early on.
We've had
probably
one.
one of the first 10 episodes, I think.
Yeah.
We had somebody write in about that. Yeah, it's always really difficult. One thing I would point out right away is I see how people get into this situation. One of the things that you said, when you first met, being inexperienced and head over heels for her.
Yep.
I agreed.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you're head over heels in love with something, you can agree to some stuff that you normally wouldn't agree to.
Well, your options are accept these terms or we don't have any relationship. And I think a lot of people, their logic at the time was, oh, well, I would rather have 50% of relationship with you than 0%. So it's just a bargain. Like, I'll just do what we need to do and whatever.
And make it work.
Yeah. Or in this kind of situation where Jeff says, well, I didn't know. Like, I didn't know how I would feel about it. And I think that's true. A lot of people, open relationships, polyamory, is another word that gets thrown around a lot now. People say I'm poly. And what that is it means that they are non-monogamous. So if monogamy is one-to-one, polyamory means multiple lovers. And so, a lot of people are throwing this around now. It's becoming kind of a buzz. Everybody's trying to get in on this train. But it's one of these things that you do not know how you will feel about it until you try to do it. And I think that when, Jeff talks about trying this and it is anguish and it breaks him, suddenly, it's not quite as shiny and exciting as you thought it was going to be. And it's like you're trying to tell yourself, okay, but if I just keep leaning in, if I just try this more and more, maybe eventually I'll adapt to it and I'll like it. And I don't know that that's the case.
I was thinking the same thing. I was thinking if you could find another couple that has a relationship like this and maybe find somebody who's been through that and ask if that goes away. Because I'm kind of thinking it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think...
I mean, people can change. Taste
possibly,
can change.
Yeah.
I think that I'm not going to rule it out. I'm not going to say it's not impossible. I'm also going to say that right now, it's definitely your truth that this is not okay for you.
Right.
That you are driving in the night on your motorcycle trying to get these thoughts out of your head is causing a clinically significant amount of distress.
Right.
And so this becomes an interesting thing because I think that different people give you different advice. And one thing I'm going to tell you is right now, I'm not going to take the approach of saying, well, she needs to get on board with your monogamy. No, she told you up front, absolutely was candid and told you, hey, listen, I'm polyamory. I want an open relationship. Those are the terms that you accepted. So it's not going to go the other way now where she's got to be the one who gives. And yet you are allowed legitimately to have tried this and to have realized it's not going to work for you.
Right. And it's also important, I think, to point out here, too, is that I don't think this is polyamory, per se.
Right.
This is just an open relationship. Because the way he's describing it, she's just viewing this as an activity, something she enjoys. Whereas polyamory is like many loves. Yeah, it's the relationship.
Good point.
Yeah, I think, I guess my question is, what's the end game?
Right.
Because what I'm hearing you say, Jeff, is that you said we're too young right now for each of us to be committed into a single relationship.
Right.
But it almost kind of sounds like you are committed to a single relationship, whereas she is not committed to a single relationship.
Right.
So I guess the terms seem different on each party.
They do. There's definitely some clarifying questions I think that we'd have. But, for the purposes of trying to give you some feedback, Jeff, I'll tell you this. I think right now I'm detecting that you do take this relationship seriously. I'm detecting that you're not at a precipice where you're trying to decide stay or go. I detect that you're at a place where you're trying to say, is there any strategies that I can do to kind of get better at this? And you want to lean in toward it. So honoring your self-direction, that is what you seem to be signaling that you want to do. I'll come alongside you and say this. The first thing I definitely want you to do is acknowledge your feelings. There's a temptation in this kind of situation to stuff it because you don't want to make it her problem. And she's trying to explain it to you. She's trying to tell you what sex means to her. And I think that's really valuable. Mm-hmm. And Jeff, you're also beginning to learn what sex means to you, and that's just as valuable. Mm-hmm. And I think that you have a responsibility to help your partner understand what your feelings around sex are and how this is affecting you. Now, that may not be asking them to change their behavior. It just might be reporting what your truth is. And in any couple situation, I want you to do that. I do want both people to have a full understanding of how it's affecting both of you. And, and then that does put some pressure on the relationship. Sure. But listen, I have a lot of folks out there that I've worked with that are part of the swinger lifestyle. They might be poly, and they go through seasons where they're active in the lifestyle and then perhaps seasons when they're not. And I have seen situations where, for whatever reason, one partner tells the other one, hey, this is causing a lot of anguish inside of me. And the other one may say, okay, hey, I'm going to go on hiatus. I'm not going to be with other people for a while. We're going to go do some couples counseling or whatever we're going to do to kind of get better at us first, right?
Right.
But I think that the core of everything, Jeff, is that your relationship has to be nourished. If your relationship is extremely strong, then it's possible to go in these other directions and your relationship basically can resist whatever damage that causes. But right now, I think you need to report your truth. You're not okay with this right now. That's not a judgment. Mm-hmm. It's just your truth.
It's reality.
It's like being under the weather. If you're ill, you tell your spouse, hey, I'm not doing real good right now. Let them know. They may adapt their behavior based on what they're hearing from you, or they may say, well, I don't want to. And that's fair too, but I definitely don't want you to keep this to yourself.
I would agree. Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think it has to be talked about, and you're just going to have to make a decision from there. Obviously, that's risky, right? Yeah. I mean, when you open that up, then you do kind of risk that other person saying, well, I'm sorry, this is kind of the way I am, and you're going to have to come to terms with it.
Yes, but don't let that chase you away.
Exactly. And I don't think it should, because your other option is just continue to suffer.
No, that's not acceptable.
Exactly.
So, Nick, what do you think about his idea his friends are telling him, where they say, well, get out there and punch your ticket. You're in an open relationship. Right now, you're taking all of the burdens and none of the blessings of that. Get out there and have an encounter. Enjoy yourself. That's the other half of this. But he's saying, I don't even know if I really want to do that.
Right.
But what are your thoughts? Do you think that would make it better?
Who knows? Maybe not. I mean, I think temporarily, maybe. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think maybe that would you'd get some temporary relief. But I think ultimately, at the end of the day, I think you're still going to be stuck back with these feelings the next time that she goes out.
Yeah. And so I think that I want to come back to this metaphor. Well, first off, I want to agree with you. I think that you don't know how it's going to affect you until you go out and do that. Mm-hmm. And there is every possibility that it's not going to be a good thing.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that just go, oh, just sex is great. Sex is fun. It's candy. Just get out there and have some candy and you'll be great. No, it could be the case that sex is very meaningful for you, man. And if you go out there and do this, you may feel like you have been treasonous in your own heart because it was inauthentic, because you didn't want to really do this. That sex is more of a relational reality for you than it is just this playtime fun thing. And going back to his example of video games, I accept that this person is making that argument and that to them that is true. But I want to point out the flaw in the example. Red Dead Redemption and Gears of War, which, Nick, those are two video games that are available at your retailer. You can go play
them.
Yeah.
Right.
Video games are these things
with
you play
the
on
joystick.
Television. Yeah. The Atari.
Okay,
yeah, you're right.
All right.
So,
gotcha.
But whenever you switch over to Red Dead Redemption, Gears of War has no connection to that moment to feel as if it is less than because you have chosen Red Dead Redemption.
Right.
In that example, there is only one being that has any emotions, and it's the person choosing what they feel like. They're not in relationship with Gears of War. And so for her to describe it as it's just like your video games, I think that there's a huge glaring error in this analogy, because that would be like if you have two dogs and it's like, hey, sometimes I want to play with Rover and then sometimes I want to play with Oscar. And so I completely ignore Rover and go play with Oscar in front of Rover.
Right.
And I mean, come on, who cares? It's just me feeling like playing with the dog. You're not wrong and you're not a bad person, but let's not be so naive to pretend like this doesn't affect Rover. It does.
True.
And so there needs to be a more robust example because it affects Jeff. And I don't want him to just be minimized and be told, well, you shouldn't have any opinion about this because I don't do this in a personal way. Fair. Thank you for teaching me what it means to you. But now it's important for Jeff to reflect on what it means to him.
Yeah.
I think that's important to do.
Yeah. Well, thanks for writing in, Jeff. I think this is a really good question. Keep us posted. Couples therapy may be something
could be
for this couple
and they're
to look
young
into as well.
They're young, and it sounds like to some extent I'm not even sure that they know what their end game is or what they want to do.
And I guess that's a good question. That's why I asked that, is like, well, what are we hoping to get to?
Yes.
Like, are we hoping that this is going to be a long-term thing, or is this we're just young college kids having fun?
And Jeff, the most important thing in all of this is your self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
I like that you're having this experience, and now I'm calling you to authenticity, to be authentically true to how your feelings are in this situation. I don't like you minimizing it, I don't like you stuffing it, and I don't like you pretending like it's not valid because your partner has no problem with this. I want you to be authentic, and that may include telling your partner how this affects you and letting the chips fall where they may.
Yep.
But I don't want to see you be inauthentic. That's not a great recipe for your personal health. Or for the relationship, to tell you the truth.
Yep. Definitely take care of yourself. And for the record, I do know what video games are.
Oh.
I used to play Grand Theft Auto a lot.
Oh, okay.
But I wasn't very good at it because I would stop at all the red lights. And it took too long to play.
You wouldn't steal the car?
No.
You'd go to the dealership and try to buy it?
Yeah.
Go do odd jobs the legit way?
You got to take a loan out at the bank, and it's too long to play. It's too complicated.
It's like The Sims.
All right, well, we're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about depression and marriage. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's Theraproducer sponsor, is Jake Schneider, and Jake Schneider's biography will also be borrowed from the Iowa State Fair of 2018. Jake Schneider, also known as Brisket Mango Tango, is a waffle bowl filled with coleslaw, seasoned with Grandma Amber's salad dressing, then a layer of Iowa beef brisket, topped with mango salsa, Iowa sweet corn, and a Grandma Amber's dressing over the top, garnished with fresh pineapple and cornichon pickle. Cattleman's Beef Quarters, southeast corner of Walnut Square, $9.
Jake, you sound delicious.
God, that is disgusting. Waffle bowl with salad on top? What is wrong with you people?
Welcome to Iowa.
Where democracy was born, baby. If you'd like to join Mango Tango Jake Schneider, what is it, Waffle Bowl? Brisket Mango Tango Jake Schneider, you can go to patreon.com/therapy and join the party. Again, that is www.patreon.com/therapy.
We're back. You're listening to Pod Therapy. Our next listener writes in about depression and marriage.
Hello, guys. I have a marriage question. I've been married for almost 11 years and have 3 kids. My husband and I have been through a lot of difficult things through the years. Addictions, moving to new places, mental health issues, crises of faith, difficult pregnancies, and this last year was the hardest of all. My husband lost his mother in January. We had our 3rd child. It was an unexpected pregnancy. He lost the best job he's ever had in September, and then his stepdad in December, which also had a really ugly fight over his will. His stepbrother got his stepdad to change the will a week before he died, and this led to him severing ties with his family, which was something I was very proud of him for doing because it was a very unhealthy relationship with his family. This was the hardest year ever for us, and things between us are getting worse. He thinks I don't care about him and that I never want to be around him, and I get sick of his negative attitude, and I feel like he is so unhappy with everything I do or don't do. He is to start back to work soon, we hope, and I know it will help because he has been home with the kids while I work, but I know the underlying issues will still be there. The resentments and anger that has built up for a long time, we are both stuck in this overwhelmed depression, and there is a lot of stress on us right now. I've tried to lay this out to him and tell him it's the season we're in and that things will get better, but he's just so angry all the time. Once he goes back to work, we will have insurance and I'm definitely going to put us in counseling, but I'm afraid we are heading towards divorce. I'm feeling less and less for him, and I don't want to. I dream of us splitting up all the time. What can I do to get us on the same page? How do you know when to throw the towel in? Any advice is greatly appreciated. Signed, Worried Wife and Mom.
Wow, that's a good question.
That's a really good question.
Jim, you've got more experience with couples. What are
Yeah.
some things that kind of stick out to you?
Well, a couple of things that jump right off the page at me that I want to acknowledge is this idea that a couple can be depressed together. And there can be multiple layers to the issue, right? So it can be the conflict. You can have these environmental distresses like loss of family members, loss of job, all these compounding pressures, I think, can really put the squeeze on the relationship. And then the couple themselves can get so stuck in that they become depressed and they become like cruel to each other or distant from each other or isolating. It has all of the bad effects of depression multiplied in an ecosystem. And it really becomes a really interesting problem when the family itself could almost be diagnosed as depressed or the relationship could almost be diagnosed as depressed. It makes it really, really complicated. Another thing that jumped off the page to me that I really wanted to point out was that she talks about how he's angry. And it gives us a good moment to point something out. And she didn't intend for us to go in this direction, but I'm going to note this. It's something that we don't talk enough about, but one of the warning signs of depression, especially in men, is anger. And it's something that throws the scent off for a lot of people, and they don't know that that person's depressed because they just seem angry all the time, and we think that they're just angry. But oftentimes anger is actually a big sign of depression. So when she notes that, and then she tells the bigger story that yes, he is depressed, and yes, I am depressed, and now we're stuck, and we don't know what to do here, there's a lot of compounding pressures.
Absolutely.
Gosh, this is a tough one. This is a really tough one.
Yeah, and I was thinking that too, because obviously he's gone through a lot. I mean, just with the death of his stepdad.
Yes.
So there's a lot of things going on. And then one thing that our listener writes in is that he thinks I don't care about him and that I never want to be around him. So immediately what I was thinking was, okay, well, what is going on that he's getting that message?
Right.
What is that message? Because I think one of the things that happens, I see this happen a lot with couples, especially when we're talking about depression. And as you pointed out, how depression in men sometimes looks like anger.
Right.
Well, that doesn't make you very fun to be around.
Right.
And so
push people
then,
away.
exactly. And then people do kind of feel like, God, yeah, you know what? I think I'd rather just spend time by myself than be around this if it's going to be this negative atmosphere.
Yes.
And then that just reinforces that idea of, see, no one loves me, no one cares.
And that's what Worried Wife said. She said, I'm
Right.
sick of his negative attitude, and I keep pulling away from him. And so this becomes the cycle. And so once we get into this pattern, he's negative, he's pushy, he's angry, he's pushing me away. I'm hurt, I'm avoidant, I don't want to be around him, I'm fantasizing about getting out of this. And round the carousel goes because we're never arresting this thing and taking it to a new place. We're not doing anything different. And so, again, I want to come back to some of the things that she pointed out. This guy's mother passes in January. His stepfather passes. They have a brand new baby. He loses his job. There is a ton of complicating issues here. And I really want to congratulate her that she's already thinking, definitely we're going to get some counseling. We're going to step into that. That would have been our biggest advice. And the fact that you're willing to do that, I think, speeds you guys into the right direction. But coming back to some of what you were saying, Worried Wife, where you're saying, you know, when do I know if it's time to give up? How do I get us back on the same page? First off, I want to answer that second question of when do you give up? Because a lot of people have been there. A lot of marriages have been on the brink. And you've gotten real close to that edge, and there's a question of when do you give up? Under what circumstances is the right time to give up? The first thing I'm going to ask you never to do is Google that question. Please, for the love of God, do not Google it. Because Google will just give you 5, articles in a BuzzFeed thing, or 5 reasons in BuzzFeed for why you should, break up or when you should end it. And they're the most generic piece of crap reasons. Every human in the world could check every single one of those. Do you feel unheard? Are they being angry? Do they put you down sometimes? Then you need to get the hell out of this relationship. And so, don't do that, okay? To me, it is time to give up on a relationship when you have tried everything and it has not worked. And it would be better for you and all the people you love to end it than to stay together. And there are times when that's the case. For your children's sake, you two are absolutely toxic together. It's creating toxic household. It's hurting the kids. And so you look at all the factors that matter in your life and you start to realize every single one of them would actually be improved if you guys weren't together. I don't see in this letter that we're there yet. I see that we're in a place where we're going to intentionally step into reconstruction and try to get on the same page. So that brings us to that other question of how do we get on the same page? One of the things that happens whenever you have kids and you have all these things going on and one of you's working and one of you's not and you're juggling all these things, you get in different lanes and you very rarely contact each other. You pass through your business partners and roommates and you pass through the house and you hand off tasks to each other and hand off updates and just who's cooking dinner and what's going on here and when are we going to put gas in the car and Billy has a spelling bee and blah, blah, blah. And it's just all these little things. We forget to come back together and just have this time that has nothing to do with anybody else. And it's just for us. And I get it that as couples, especially when you have kids, you almost can't find that time. But the very first challenge I'll put to you, worried wife, is for you and your husband to dedicate an hour. Not even a day, because I realize that might be hard to come by, but an hour a week. And this is a good thing for you to lead toward therapy, because that's ultimately what therapy becomes, is that hour of intention every single week. But to carve out an hour when the kids are in bed, and for you guys to get online and maybe buy a couple's workbook as like a refresher. Look for some titles on communication, something that has leading questions, something that stimulates conversation, that asks each other about how are you feeling today and what are some of the things you look forward to in life and really begins this deeper conversation that's introspective. Put that book on the table in front of you both. Agree that you're going to spend an hour a week going through a chapter, answering some questions together.
Right.
Cell phones are off, kids are in bed, and it's just us time.
Right. And I like how it's not a replacement for couples counseling, but it's at least doing something to as kind of a Band-Aid to hold things together until you're able to get in and see somebody.
Yes, and it will ultimately be something that generates a lot of good content, which is very much a therapy word, but it generates insight. So it gives us as the therapist, when you finally get to us, it gives us a lot to work with, because now you guys have been having this kind of deeper, more intelligible conversation. And it isn't just, the workbook's not there to repair something. It's not there to uncover a real problem and then patch the hole in the wall. That's not what it's there for. It's there to exercise. It's there to stimulate you so that you guys get into a more natural routine of talking and connecting, because right now you're avoiding each other, and that's the thing we need to change. So that intentional effort where you guys agree to meet in the middle and have this kind of encounter every once in a while, 1 hour a week, 2 hours a week, that is a really important thing to do. And it begins that process. It starts setting the stage for more connection, because right now you guys are perfect strangers living in the same world. That's the first problem that we've got to address. We got to get you guys to encounter each other in dialogue. And, a good book that I'll just throw out there, I'll recommend. It has a little bit of a religious flavor to it, which I'm starting to realize a lot of my books do. So I'm starting to add disclaimers. But The 5 Love Languages. The 5 Love Languages is a neat book. It's very short. It's less than 100 pages. And it's neat because it has a test in there where you can both figure out how do you show and receive love. And it's neat because it starts a dialogue between you. It's very much about yourself, but about your mate. And so it's a fun thing to talk about. It's kind of short, it's easy, and it has lots of ideas in there for, okay, if you know that this is your mate's love language, how might you address that?
Right.
How could you intentionally try to meet them where they're at and speak their love language. It has kind of some fun things in there. Another one, and this one's extremely religious, is called The Love Dare. And The Love Dare is like, it's another short book, but it has like tasks. And so it has like, it's like a his and hers copy, and like they have dares, like you're supposed to do these little tasks. That might be a little bit more than you guys can handle right now, but anything to put between you to have a shared kind of reading experience and encounter one another for an hour a week would just be really a good place to start.
Very good. Thank you for writing in. I hope that helps.
Yeah, thank you so much for writing in. And I hope that you have a good Valentine's Day. I hope that, Valentine's Day, I realize when you have kids, it's hard to have a Valentine's Day. I'm certainly not going to have one. I know that our Valentine's Day is going to be, my wife is making a heart-shaped pizza. And it ain't for me. It's for the kids. And so it's going to be a heart-shaped pizza from Papa Murphy's for the kids, and probably heart cookies. And
I assume that once you have kids, nothing's really for you anymore.
Nothing. Even your anniversary.
Right.
Has nothing to do with you.
This ain't about you.
This ain't about you. It's about the day we brought this team together to have these kids.
Well, I can tell by the empty bottle of Cavatier that this episode is over. Jim, you want to get into, do we have any announcements? I don't think we do.
We don't have any big announcements.
I have an apology.
Whoa.
I need to apologize to everybody for the last episode, which I just learned this morning. Apparently I screwed up.
Yes. Yes.
So, yeah, my bad.
Rake upon the coals, my friend. Yeah. Yes. You need to commit seppuku right here. To atone for your sins, dude, because you're awful. So, in episode 58, if you'd like to hear that train wreck again, you can go to the second half of the episode where Nick just lets the audio go. Lets it go where it wants to go.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our theme song just shows up. And when I started to give him hell for this, Ulrich, the Iowan, steps in to defend you. And the only reason I'm cool with that is because I am holding a t-shirt that she just sent to us, and we have coasters. She sent us like a gift bag of different things. So,
which was awesome.
And a shot glass for Jacob, too.
Yes.
What does your shot glass say?
It says, this beverage fills my stomach, while my soul remains thirsty for true meaning.
That's a lot on a shot glass.
It is.
It is.
I like how honest it is. Like, there you go. I'm putting this alcohol in me because I'm empty inside. Thank you, shot glass. This shot glass brought to you by depression.
I don't know why one would think that the alcohol isn't my soul's true meaning.
I feel like this thing's trying way harder than it needs to. Well, we also want to thank all of our Patreons who support us on patreon.com/therapy. And we want to welcome our newest THERAPAL. Welcome to Andrew M. Frozen Cusser, who's joined the party. And we also have a new THERAPOD. We want to thank Fred Bishara Jr., who actually kicked it up to $6 to make a mark for himself. Good for you, Fred. Thank you for joining the party. And to all of our THERAPODs who we thank at the beginning of every month, thank you so much. And we especially want to thank our Theraproducers.
Yes, special thanks to our bosses, the Elite Eight, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati. I can never say that word. Illuminati. At least I can say pillow. Illuminati members of our fan club, the Theraproducers. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr. Mint, Kayla Lansbury, David Data Scoop Vialon, Judy Schneider, Gray Whitaker, Chairman of the Board, and Dr. Ben Don.
And if you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited and enjoy all of the bonus content that comes before it, and go back into our archives and see what was the book club and afterthoughts, things that we have neglected now for so long.
We're terrible.
I don't even know that we should make proper announcements about it anymore. Then you can join us at patreon.com/therapy for as low as $1. And thank you for supporting mental health. That's all the time that we've got for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciated it. Remember, pod therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Help us reach others by opening this episode's description in your podcast app, copying and pasting the link provided into your social media. Don't forget, you can find us at facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter @PodTherapyGuys, and on patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at www.podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tangeman.
I am,
Leon Phelps.
Leon Phelps.
Thanks. And we'll see you for your appointment next week.
What is it, Leon? Leon Phelps?
Yeah, Leon Phelps.
Leon Phelps.
I don't know what you guys spent that whole episode talking about, but I would recommend doing it in the butt.
Do it in the butt.
I would like to buy you a fish sandwich.
I want to go back and watch all of that.
I forgot about the fish sandwich.
Do you remember in the movie whenever, because isn't it Will Ferrell that's like his enemy? He's a Greco-Roman wrestler and like he's like greasing up to fight him, and then Leon just punches him in the face. Because there's no punching.
There's no punching in Greco-Roman